It's game week in South Bend, and that means it's time for one of my favorite traditions. Today, we have got the 2025 Preseason Award Show, which includes MVP picks, breakout stars, trap games, and plenty more chaos coming your way next.
You are Locked On Irish, your daily podcast on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome in. This is Locked On Irish, your daily Notre Dame podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wojciak. I'm a Notre Dame alum, producer at Fox Sports, and I've been covering the Irish since 2020. Today is Monday, August 24th, and thanks for kicking off your game week by making this your first watch or listen of the day. If you're watching along on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast, be sure to follow the show and leave a rating and review. It helps keep the show free and helps you stay up to date with everything going on with the Irish. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. All right, we are kicking off game week with one of my favorite episodes of the year, the 6th annual Preseason Award Show with my good friend and former co-host Luke Smith. The audience has grown quite a bit, which we are very grateful for. But for those of you who don't know, Luke and I went to Notre Dame together, and we used to do a podcast called Sons of Saturday before I joined Locked On. And this is a tradition that we have kept alive ever since. Today, we are going to hand out a bunch of preseason awards, some real, some totally made up, including MVP, Breakout Player, Biggest Win, biggest trap game, a whole lot more coming your way. Then once the season wraps up, we're going to revisit these predictions to see how we did and hand out our postseason awards. But we're going to save that for the end of January. For now, let's bring in Luke. All right, Luke Smith is here, and he looks ready to hand out some preseason awards. We've been doing this for years, and I get so excited to do it every time because it is the perfect sign that football is officially back. So can you believe it, Luke? Like, does it feel real to you yet that we're just a few days away from football?
Not really, to be honest. I mean, we're doing this on Friday, August 22nd, so week 0 is tomorrow. And as I was driving around today, I was kind of thinking to myself, I can't believe that there's a ranked matchup tomorrow in Ireland, albeit, but it's pretty wild. I'm not complaining about it. It finally started to cool down a little bit in Chicago after what felt like the most humid summer, stickiest summer of all time. But I'm definitely ready for it. I just, it hasn't quite hit me yet.
I feel like it kind of sneaks up on you. June, July, you're just waiting and you're waiting. And then August comes around and then it just kind of flies by. Camp goes by in the blink of an eye. And then all of a sudden you're like, it's game week. And this is going out on a Monday. So when people are watching or listening, it will officially be game week. Even though Notre Dame plays on a Sunday, we're going to count it as game week. But I think it's time to get into the awards. Luke, why don't you lead us off with the first one?
So our first award here, we have the Club Fever Award for Freshman of the Year. For those not familiar, Club Fever was Michiana's hottest nightclub from, let's say, the mid-2000s to 2018. It was well known for being a bar that brought all students from the Notre Dame student body together, but they were particularly lenient with allowing freshmen into their bar as well. So hence the namesake here.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've been inside Fever, which is admittedly a good thing. I don't really know where underage students
it doesn't
go
exist
these days.
So.
Yeah. I think the building is still standing. I can't even imagine what it looks like on the inside. It's probably like a haunted house at this point. The horrors that those walls have seen. Like if walls could talk, I don't even want to know what they would have to say about what went on inside Club Fever on Thursday nights.
Yeah. Man, that's kind of a scary visual. I hadn't thought about that in a long time, but hence it lives on in infamy. But in this case, it's not a case of infamy to actually win this award. So who do you got?
So for me, I am taking true freshman tight end James Flanagan. Earlier this offseason, I ranked the top 5 true freshmen who I think would be most impactful. And I think it's going to be James Flanagan, even though I don't think he's going to put up the type of numbers that, say, a Leonard Moore put up last season, because I think his role is going to be tight end 2, maybe even tight end 3. But considering how thin Notre Dame is at the position, with Cooper Flanagan out for the year, now Kevin Bauman out for the year, and now Ty Washington, the Arkansas transfer, is a little bit banged up as well. So it's Raritan, it's Jack Larson, and it's James Flanagan. So he's going to have his chance very early on. The coaching staff has had really high praise for him, honestly, since this summer. I'm not sure how much we'll see from him against Miami, but I think he's going to grow into his role as the year goes on, and they're going to count on him this year.
I think it's a good pick just because out of necessity, he's probably going to play a role at some point. And I think more broadly, I generally like the pattern of picking guys whose dads did something at Notre Dame. You know, the progeny of former stars. That's been a pretty good pattern for Notre Dame to follow over the last 3 or 4 years. And why would James Flanagan be any different?
Right. And I think there was a lot of talk about why Notre Dame didn't offer, Pritchett's son?
Pritchett. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who's now at Alabama. They were really high on James Flanagan, another legacy, but he might not rack up a ton of catches, but one thing that you had heard about him, even as a recruit, is that guy is a willing blocker. And even though Mike Denbrock has spread the offense out more, they're still going to run some 12 personnel. So he's going to have to get in the mix there and make some blocks.
He definitely will. And speaking of another guy who's going to have to make some blocks, my guy for this is Gerby Lambert, because we finally have our long-awaited answer to where Gerby is going to play. Shout out Brian Smith, the GOAT, and it's right guard. This is a guy who we've been waiting to see in action for pretty much as soon as he committed to Notre Dame, and it's so great that he earned a starting spot after overcoming that pec injury he suffered this offseason. Frankly, I think some folks might have him right up there with Charles Jagusah in terms of the Notre Dame lineman with the most NFL ability, and he will make what should be one of the best lines in the country even better. I do think it's also notable that, cheating a little bit here because he's a redshirt freshman, he was on the roster last year, but what's also more notable to me is that he was redshirted, but he played in both the Orange Bowl and the National Championship on special teams last year, which goes to show you they wanted to save him in the regular season, but when their backs were really up against the wall, they had him in there. And I realized that there were a lot of injuries, but I think that more spoke to his ability than necessity.
It also marks the third camp in a row that the player who we projected to start at guard ended up not being that person. Happened a couple years ago with Billy Schrouth and also Andrew Kristofich. Last year, Sam Pendleton jumped Pat Coogan and Rocco Spindler. Where does Gerby Lambert beating out Sullivan Absher rank compared to those surprises? Is it even a surprise to you?
I'd say this is the least surprising of those. I don't know if you feel differently, but we know how talented he is. You kind of feel bad for Sullivan Absher because he's not a bad player. He's a serviceable player, but this is really, as far as I see it, the best case scenario for Notre Dame. You have the most talented guy on the field, and you have kind of a Swiss Army knife in Sullivan Absher who can kind of sub in wherever if an injury happens. He's got a lot of versatility. So this is not really surprising to me at all.
All right, our next award is the Jonas Gray Award. It's for a senior who has a breakthrough year, someone who's played before, has been a part of the system, has probably done some things in a Notre Dame uniform, but really it all came together for them their senior year. And in the case of Jonas Gray, I mean, he had done practically nothing, and he was a pretty highly rated recruit, has this unbelievable senior season that unfortunately ended with a torn ACL injury pretty late in the season. He did have his moment of fame in the NFL with the Patriots. That lasted about 5 days. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated and then was never to be heard from again. But with our selections, we're hoping for one, as good of a senior season, and then hopefully a better NFL career. So who do you got?
I got Jason Onye, and the fact that this guy is back at all is a terrific story, and I think an illustration of his dedication to this team and his career. But really, I felt like he was on the verge of a breakout last year prior to stepping away from the team, and everything we heard from Marcus Freeman and the staff this camp seems to indicate he's picking up exactly where he left off. I know that defensive tackle has been a area of concern on this program, as well as, just generally across the Notre Dame media. But I want to point out, shout out to Greg Flamong and Jamie Uyama, who I know you've had on this show many times. They pointed out that in 5 games last year, he had a 42.9% win rate versus true pass sets, which the true pass set is just a straight drop back, no play action, no RPO, anything like that. But that's an incredibly high level of play. And this is a guy who has also blocked a few kicks in his career. Sounds like he's just gotten his body into incredible shape. He's over 300 pounds with like 8% body fat. And if he plays to his ability, I think he's going to get drafted and he's going to be really disruptive. I mean, he's probably going to watch the town the night before the Miami game, like any good Bishop, Hendricken, Eaglewood. Shout out Joe Mazzulla and Tyler Williams on that one. And he's going to make Carson Beck's life hell. And I can't wait to see it.
Jason Onye winning this would be huge for the Notre Dame defense. It would honestly be bigger than the player that I'm going to take, which is tight end Eli Raridan. I think both of these guys are in interesting spots because Notre Dame needs them to break through. There is a lot of pressure on both of these guys to have big seasons. For Onye, this has felt like basically a 2-year-long process with him. I remember, I think it was not this past spring practice or even the one before that. It was actually the one 3 spring practices ago where he started to emerge and basically went from a player that was sort of an afterthought to someone who's like, hey, this guy's going to contribute in 2023. He did a little bit, never really came together from that season. 2024, like you said, was starting off really well. Then he leaves the team. Now it's his time, and Notre Dame is counting on him. And Notre Dame is also counting on tight end Eli Raridon for the reasons I just mentioned. They are very thin at that position. And for his career, Eli Raridon has 16 receptions, 141 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns. He needs to double that, maybe even triple that this season, because Notre Dame needs a really strong tight end, especially considering they have a very young and inexperienced quarterback. We know he's got the size, the speed, all of that you want in a big-time tight end. And the fact that Mike Denbrock has doubled down on him, saying that he's going to be elite, gives me all the confidence in the world that he is an elite player. He just needs to stay healthy. And if he is healthy, I think he's going to put up huge numbers for Notre Dame this year.
Yeah, I think the point on the staff is very important too, because I think Mike Denbrock in particular is a pretty candid guy, and maybe not, I'm not going to say he's gruff, but he's not one to just throw compliments around. And the way that he talks about him is significant to me. But hey, if he can double or triple his production, that sounds pretty good. A touchdown catch every 5 catches. I mean, that's pretty damn good. I'd take that any day of the week.
It's efficient for sure. He also had a huge play in that game against Penn State last year. It was a pass interference, but yeah, Leonard threw it to him in the end zone. He was open. He beat the defender and he had to tackle him. So he was becoming more of a part of the offense at the end of last season, which is certainly a good sign going in. But I've made this comparison before. If he could put up Cole Kmet 2019 numbers, this offense is going to be in great shape.
Yeah, and I think that's also a good comparison because Cole Kmet, to that point, had, I'm not going to say underachieved, but he hadn't achieved much, like he had just been pretty quiet through his first 2 years of college. And then he had a good enough third year where he only played 9 games that he ended up being a 2nd round pick in the NFL. So yeah, I would definitely take that.
We'll be right back with Luke in a moment to pick who we believe will have the biggest breakout season this year for the Irish. But first, a word from Rugiet. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it is time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. You can even read real customer reviews on their site. It's helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in the moment. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. Before we get back to Luke, we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We have put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to LockedOnPodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's LockedOnPodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. All right, what's our next award?
Got the Kyron Williams Award for the player who will have a breakout season. So on this one, I've never done this before. Taking a guy I took for this award last year, and his season last year was a bit of a roller coaster that ended up on top, but I wouldn't say it was necessarily a breakout, and that's Jalen Snead. I think everything we've heard from the coaching staff indicates that it's finally all clicking for him. This was a guy who was a 5-star prospect. He didn't know what a pulling guard was when he got to college, which there's
that
just
seems
a lot
hard
of,
to believe.
Yeah,
I saw that, but yes, I know.
I would actually love if that was true because I've seen his high school coach on Twitter and he's a bit obnoxious. So that would kind of help illustrate my point. Anyways, the guy's supremely talented. He's gone through a lot, playing not playing, and it finally came together for him at the end of last year. And then this offseason, it sounds like he took things really seriously, and he's in a position where he's ready to have a breakout year. But more importantly, the fact that he's starting over Kingston Viliamu-Asa is the most significant piece to me, because the way that Max Boa and Marcus Freeman talk about Viliamu-Asa makes him sound like a generational player. Like, he's already a pro, he's so talented. But if they're saying that and he's not starting, then Snead's 5-star ability must really be shining through. I mean, that's one of those things where it's like, the way they talk about this guy and they're not playing him, it's pretty wild. So I think Snead's poised.
I was thinking about that when I was going through some of these awards. It's like, where does KVA make sense? Is he the breakout player? Because he's not even starting. Like you said, if I use him as the DCO Cafe Award, which we'll get to here in a second, that feels a little bit like cheating as well, because he's certainly not a hidden gem. He played for the Irish a lot last year. So he's a really interesting player. And I think that with Snead, he might be like the chess piece on the defense that can play a bunch of different positions, because he can play as an every down linebacker, which is not something that we have said in the past. He's been mostly a pass rusher, but he's really good at it. Got after Drew Aller in the CFP semifinal. It led to Christian Gray's interception. But if they trust him to be a weak side linebacker and then utilize him to come off the edge, like, he's just one of those players that could take a really good defense to becoming great, because the offense has no way to game plan, because they have no idea what he's going to do.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, there are so many weapons on this Notre Dame defense, which, to your point, made this exercise more difficult in a good way, because I think there's a lot of candidates based on the buzz we've heard and what we've seen to win each and any one of these awards.
I'm going to stay on the defense with my pick here. I'm taking defensive end Boubacar Traore. And honestly, Traore was well on his way to breaking out last season before he got hurt in the Louisville game. So I'm cheating a little bit here. This seems like an easy one. In 4.5 games, and honestly, it wasn't even half a game, because he got hurt in the first half against Louisville, maybe even the first quarter. Racked up 15 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and had an interception return for a touchdown against Purdue, while he was the backup to Jordan Botelho, who was also having a great start to the season. So as long as Traore is healthy, he is going to be a menace this year. I was a little concerned, as recently as a few weeks ago, about whether or not Traore would be on a pitch count, or whether or not he would even play at all in the game against Miami. I still want to see it to believe that he's 100%. But by all accounts, he's ready to go, and he's going to start.
This is a great pick. Again, just another guy that this Notre Dame defense is going to come at you in waves, and there might not be a guy who's a better illustration of this than this guy. When you think you're dealing with Josh Burnham, Bryce Young, Junior Tuihalamaka. Oh, shoot, who the heck is this guy, Boubacar Traore? I just don't know how teams are going to block Notre Dame.
All right, with this next award, I think we're going to keep this discussion going on the defense here. So this is the DCO Cafe Award. And if you've been watching or listening to the show for a while, you've seen these awards. You know that we used to talk about it as a hidden gem. It's not really a hidden gem anymore. DCO Cafe was really for faculty on campus, and then all the students kind of figured it out. It was a great alternative if you ever got tired of the dining hall food. But it's my understanding that at this point, the line is always long, so we might have to figure out a new name for this award in the future. But this is for a player who is not a starter week 1, but will have a huge impact at some point this season. So, Luke, tell me who your pick is.
Well, my pick here is Jordan Botelho, and it has been remarkable to hear how he has seemingly bounced back from his injury so quickly. I think he's still going to miss the first few games, but he's going to be back, it seems like, at least, much earlier than anticipated. And this is a guy who easily could have transferred. He could have left the program 5 different times, either by choice or not by choice. And the fact that he's still here in his 6th year tells me he has a singular focus. And this is, I think, also why this is a great pick for the current iteration of DCO Cafe, because I don't know if you guys have been in there recently, but it's a lot less personal these days. You got to type in on an iPad what you want to order. Like, you don't go through and just give the guys your order. And I think Jordan Botelho is all business this year, and he's got that singular focus. It's 1 year, one reason, and that reason is to win a national championship.
Does tall, pale rap man still work there? Because if not,
he does. He still haunts the hallways, or not haunts.
I was going to say
hallways.
He's great. All right. Well, that's good to hear. I'm a little bit disappointed that it's not as personal as it used to be. But again, this influx of business that we can clearly attribute to this podcast and the fact that we have just totally exposed this secret on a national stage. But that's a really good pick. For my pick, I'm taking Bryce Young. Again, hard to really call a former 5-star who is 6'7", 271 pounds, a hidden gem, but that kind of plays into what we've been saying about DCO. He is once a secret. Now he's known to pretty much everyone. Kirby Smart talked about him and what he did on tape. And I think he's going to come off the bench behind Josh Burnham, which is why he's applicable for this award. But he's going to be a huge piece on Notre Dame's defense and on special teams. He's probably going to have a couple block kicks, maybe even a blocked punt as well if he stops just destroying the punter every single time he tries to do it. But I have been leading the Bryce Young bandwagon all offseason. I'm not jumping off now.
Yeah, I think this is a guy that probably had a pretty good case for Breakout Season Award too, but I get how this is a better fit because technically he's not a starter. People forget Josh Burnham did have 2 sacks in the national championship game, so maybe that's why he's starting. There's just a lot of optionality Notre Dame has here, but this guy, I wouldn't be surprised if by season's end, I mean, I'd say it's neck and neck between him and Boubacar, who we're talking about as the guy on that defensive line.
All right, this next award is a fan favorite. Luke, tell him what it is.
So our next award is the Brothers Bar and Grill Award, which goes to the player or position group that might frustrate you at times, but will deliver when it counts. And for better context, well, first off, I do not believe that Brothers Bar and Grill will ever be sponsoring this program.
We ruined that a long time ago.
Pretty much denigrated them at every turn, but I do think that it's warranted. But the idea behind this is that I don't know how many times I've been there where they've been out of food or they put the wrong tab on your card. But, you know, that like a couple times a year where it's 75 degrees out and they've got that patio open and they actually get your order right, it is really fantastic. So that's the origination of this name. And for that reason, I'm going with the kicker because I don't even really know who the kicker is going to be. It sounds like it's going to be Noah Burnett, but the fact that there's still like, the way that Freeman answered it in his last press conference was, if we had to play today, it would be Noah Burnett. That's not the most promising. And generally, like last year, kicking was a disaster too because of Mitch Jeter's injury, but he came up when it mattered, and I kind of expect the same this year.
Yeah, the way Freeman phrased it did not invoke a ton of confidence. He even referred to him as Noah Grubbs at one point, the high school recruit. So, yeah, I'm going to pick special teams as a whole because I'm going to be honest, I don't have any faith that the kicker is going to come through when it counts. Like if Notre Dame trots out the field goal unit and they're down by 2 against Miami, not going to be feeling too great in that moment. So if you lump in special teams as a whole, this shows my faith in Marty Biagi that even if the kicking game sucks, and honestly, I have concerns about the punter, James Riddell, as well, because he has been remarkably inconsistent since he came over. I do think that Biagi's going to figure out ways to make an impact on special teams, whether it be punt block, field goal block, fake punts, fake kicks, all of that, especially now with Tyler Buckner being the holder. And if you look back to last season, like Notre Dame became somewhat famous for running all kinds of exotic fakes and things like that, getting real active on special teams. Correct me if I'm wrong, that didn't really start until the Georgia Tech game. In the first full month of the season, special teams was a disaster. Like Mitch Jeter came through kicking field goals against Texas A&M, but then against Miami, Faison dropped a punt against Louisville. They fumbled the opening kick, so it was a disaster. And then in the second half, then they started to figure things out, got a lot more aggressive. I could see a similar trajectory this year where they're going to have some struggles early on, and then Marty Biagi is going to be like, all right, we got to do something so that this unit isn't pulling us back. They're going to make some big plays. So I have faith in Marty Biagi, not so much in the kickers.
Yeah, I do think that's right. There may have been like a muffed. Did they block a kick against Louisville or like Louisville muffed a snap or something like that? But yeah, outside of that.
The snap went like way over the punter's head. They didn't really do anything.
But you're right. They really struggled. And I do think that some of the stuff they were doing at the end of the year with fakes, they were holding on to because they knew they'd have to use it later in the year. Now this year when they play Miami and A&M to start, maybe they're more willing to use those right off the bat. But yeah, I had to laugh at the punting reports. I mean, Sampson was talking about them like hitting light posts with punts at the first day of practice. But what I will say about James Rendell is that while it might have looked ugly at times, he actually had pretty good results for the most part. It just was not the prettiest thing all the time. And he didn't have a touchback all last year. So I do have some faith in him. It just might not always look super orthodox.
When Rendell's punts went bad, they went really bad. It was like it blinded you to anything positive that he did because it just looked so ugly.
Right. So we'll see.
Luke and I still have a few more awards left, including who we believe will be the team's most valuable player. But before we get to that, I want to tell you about a great new promotion from FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. So I've said it on the show, I am taking Patrick Mahomes to win the MVP, which you can get at plus 650 right now on FanDuel. And in conjunction with that, I'm also taking the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl this year. They're plus 850 right now. I understand that's a pretty boring pick, but they have the fourth best odds, and I think they are going to win a Super Bowl after a pretty embarrassing loss in last year's Super Bowl. Plus, you can parlay your division winner dark horses. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. All right, this next award is the 401k award. This goes out to the player who might not have the biggest impact this fall, but whose progress you will be watching closely. And this is interesting because usually it goes out to players who are probably going to be redshirted. Although in this modern age of college football, like really only linemen get redshirted unless it's a Gerby Lambert situation who is a lineman, I understand, but plays during the regular season, plays in the 4-game max, and then ends up playing in a couple more postseason games as well. So the redshirt and the way that they use it is interesting, but I think a lot of freshmen, especially this season, are going to be very active on special teams. So either way, even if they're not starting or if they're contributing on offense or defense, who are you going to be keeping an eye out for?
I've got Madden Faramo because in other years, I think he'd be playing quite a bit. Super highly touted linebacker, but because Notre Dame is so loaded at linebacker, I think he's going to take a back seat this year. But if anybody gets injured, I do expect him to be able to jump in without missing a beat. So it'll be interesting to hear the reports on him throughout the season and if he does get a chance, how he does.
When he committed, I think a lot of people expected him to be the fifth linebacker in the rotation. I still think he is the fifth. The only difference is I don't expect Notre Dame to have a five-man rotation because the gap this year between the top four, whether it's Bowen, KVA, Snead, or Osbury, and a true freshman, is bigger than last year. Even though they did have Jack Kaiser, who's in his 8th year or whatever playing college football, but like Bowen was still young, Snead was still a little bit inconsistent, Osbury was still young. So KVA was also a little bit more advanced than Faramo was, but the gap between them was not as severe. So I just don't think Framo's in a place this year where we see him much on defense. But do you think we'll see him like later on in the year? Do you think he'll force his way into the rotation, or is this going to be a player who you only see on special teams?
I think maybe we do, but I think it's more likely we see him due to injury than they just, I don't know. These guys all need to get snaps, and it's just going to be difficult, I feel like.
It's also going to be tough for Elijah Burris to get snaps. The freshman wide receiver, at one moment in the offseason, I felt, maybe he could crack that 6-man rotation. But then after offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock spoke to the media on this past Sunday, I don't really think we're going to see a whole lot of Elijah Burris in meaningful moments this season. He explained that Burris is a really frustrating player to coach because he has an elite skill set, but has not mastered the playbook and doesn't always know where to be on the field. And if the coaches do not trust you to be in the right place, you are absolutely not going to play. I think Burris's freshman season will look a lot like Micah Gilbert's last year because Gilbert also flashed in the offseason, but then just got stuck behind veterans. Notre Dame has their top four intact. It's going to be Fields, Pauling, Greathouse, and Faison. And then behind those four guys, you've got Micah Gilbert and KK Smith. I just don't really see a role for Burris unless a bunch of guys get hurt. So I think he'll get some action. I don't know if he'll be redshirted. Maybe he is a player on special teams, but I just think that his long-term future is great, but he's probably going to be sitting the bench for most of this year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Really interesting comments from Mike Denbrock. Almost when you upon first glance, they come off as harsh, but I do think it's kind of like a bit of a kick in the tail to Burris to tell him, like, you could play if you can figure this stuff out. So they clearly think a lot of him. He just needs to put together some of the mental stuff. So we'll see what happens there. But speaking of mental stuff, The next award, this was previously called like the Vanderbilt Award, the Ball State Award. I think there was a Toledo in there, but there's really only one fitting name for this now, and it is the NIU Award. The what the hell was that game? So I'll defer to you to go first.
This doesn't mean that we're picking Notre Dame to lose a game, but every year there's at least one, sometimes multiple, games when Notre Dame is playing an inferior opponent and it's in the second half, it's a close game. Notre Dame is clearly better than this team, and yet they just can't get out of their own way. And it is just so frustrating to watch, whether it be on your couch, whether you're watching in a bar. It is the worst game of the season every single year. So if you had to forecast it, Luke, which game do you think is going to be the most annoying to watch?
This is genuinely crazy that I'm saying this because all clips out of Purdue's fall camp make them look like a high school team and like maybe just walk-on tryouts, but I'm saying Purdue, and it's even crazier when you consider that Notre Dame beat this team by 59 points last year, coming off of the NIU loss, a game that several in the national media also predicted the Irish to lose. But when I say what the hell was that, I don't really anticipate this game to ever be close. Like they're never going to be within doubt of losing. But I just think coming off of 2 win-at-all-cost games against Miami and A&M, Irish offense is probably going to tinker with things a little bit. They might just play with their food, and maybe some guys get in who haven't played much. Notre Dame could win by 4 touchdowns, but I bet the spread's going to be over 30, and I would not take it.
The thing with Purdue is there's just no world where Notre Dame is ever in danger of losing that game.
Right, but it could be just not a fun watch.
There's a very good chance it's not a fun watch. If Notre Dame starts off 2-0, I would recommend to those of you who are in the betting game to take Purdue, whatever the points are, because you're right. They're probably going to be playing with their food. But I am picking at Boston College, and I think that there is a real chance that this game could be in the second half and Notre Dame could be in jeopardy of losing, or it could be a one-score game. Because if you look at the schedule, Notre Dame is going to be coming off a game against USC, which I think is going to be a huge win at night. It's going to be a lot of fun. Then they got to go to Chestnut Hill. That reeks of noon kickoff on ABC, like middle of the day. No one's really watching it. And last year, Bill O'Brien's first year with Boston College, they were not a great team. You could make the case they weren't even that good, but they were feisty. They were in pretty much every game they played, and I understand their quarterback is now at Florida State talking a bunch of trash about Alabama. I'm sure that's going to work out well for him, but I just think this game is going to be super annoying, and we're going to be in the second half. Notre Dame's going to be up by 4, and you're like, are we really doing this? Now, granted, Notre Dame has not lost to Boston College since 2008. They have had some blowouts, but historically, Boston College is always a thorn in Notre Dame's side. I could see that happening again this year.
Yeah, see, I actually do think that'll probably be a night game just because it's Boston College and Notre Dame at Boston College. I don't remember the last time I guess they did play a day game there in 2017, but that was a little bit later kicked. The other thing is just like looking at Boston College's schedule, that's a brutal stretch for them because
they do have Louisville the week before too at Louisville.
And the week after they go, I mean, let's see here. They
got SMU.
Got SMU, and they also got Georgia Tech, who is a trendy like playoff pick by some people. And then they got Syracuse. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. You're right. Historically, Boston College games haven't been super fun to watch, but this one doesn't scare me as much. Really, like, I don't know. It's just like I don't think they're that talented at the end of the day. They do have a former Alabama quarterback, though. We'll give them that much, too.
That is true. This is a good segue into our next award. Am I in Utopia? No, this is South Bend Award for the best win of the year. I've already kind of alluded to it. I think it's going to be that game against USC. It could be the last game against USC for a real long time. We don't know yet. It's a night game in South Bend during the best part of the year to be on campus, and I expect Notre Dame to go out there and absolutely hammer USC because Chad Bowden has done a lot of talking this offseason, and Marcus Freeman has been radio silent, and I think this is his one and only chance to get back at him. I know he's spoken up about the future of the USC series, but I'm talking about the social media jabs from the USC side, which we all know where that's coming from. And I expect Notre Dame to be hitting their stride at this point in the season, mid to late October. September could be rocky. As a matter of fact, it could be miserable at times. They break in a new quarterback and just have to shake off the rust and figure things out as the season starts, similar to what they did last year. But by this point, I think the team is going to be coming together. USC has not won at Notre Dame since 2011, and I expect that streak to continue. Irish by at least 2 scores.
Yeah, they haven't won in South Bend since before I had my driver's license, and I'm almost 30. So it's been a long time to put it bluntly.
You're kind of cheating here with this award. I'm looking at the doc.
Well, I said this last year. I don't think there's a game on the schedule Notre Dame shouldn't expect to win. They're more talented than everybody on the schedule, and I think there's a singular focus at play here. If they hammer USC, I will enjoy that to no end. Don't get me wrong, but like the expectation is to win a national championship, and without that, like they're wearing shirts that say SAS still ain't shit. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about this season, honestly. Now, that said, if this was about like who will I enjoy the most, like just going after fans, Miami. Because the way that those folks are talking, you would think that they just made a run to the national championship.
They just won it.
Honestly, not the team that missed the playoff with a number 1 overall pick playing in the weakest ACC the last 25 years. I mean, these guys are beyond delusional. I just wait. We got a week, and I cannot wait until we wake up Monday morning with big smiles on our face because, wow, they're on some stuff that I want.
It's wild. I've seen it firsthand. Yeah. They blow up the comments with every episode. Hey, thanks for the engagement. But, man, that is a confident group. All right, last award here, MVP. Who you got?
I think the better question is not who the most valuable player is going to be, but where does Jeremiah Love leave in terms of all-time players to come through this program? Where is he ranked? Because I think we're all expecting, barring something crazy, he's going to be the most valuable player on this football team.
Without a doubt. And I just hope that we get the full breadth of Jeremiah Love because it feels like we've been robbed lately where it's like Kyle Hamilton burst onto the scene as a freshman and you're thinking like, man, where's he going to go down in Notre Dame history? Ends up missing the second half of his third season, goes on to the NFL. Going into last season, we're talking about Benjamin Morrison. Like, could he end up becoming the best cornerback in Notre Dame history? His season gets cut short due to injury. So I feel like we are due here, and we need to get Jeremiah Love in full. Like, I don't think he's going to win the Heisman. I made that case before. He's just not going to get enough carries, enough touches, which is good because Notre Dame has bigger aspirations than winning a Heisman. It's possible he gets invited to New York. That would be really cool. It's been a while since that happened, but it's going to be Jeremiah Love. Obviously, he's the most valuable player. It's going to be really interesting to see how they use him. But, man, if he puts it all together, if he really lives up to our expectations, I think he's going to go down as the best running back in Notre Dame history, and it might not even be close.
Crazy to say, but boy, would I love it if that ends up being the case.
Right. And normally we end our preseason award show with Luke giving his official season prediction, but he kind of gave that away when he said that the Am I in Utopia? No, this is South Bend award by saying it's the national championship. So, Luke, before we wrap things up here, just your final thoughts on this season and how it's going to play out.
Obviously, a lot of things can change. It feels somewhat irresponsible to just go ahead and say they're going to win the national championship, but that's
never stopped you before.
It's good. I've felt about it as I ever have, and you can only end the year in the world's worst parking lot if you start it there. And this year, the first game's in Miami, the last game's in Miami. That's what we've got. So I'm very excited to see what this team does. I'm sure there will be moments of despair, just like any season brings. But, man, am I excited to watch this team play.
All right. You heard it from Luke Smith. We're going to win state. We're going to be perfect, but not tonight. Luke, thank you so much for the preseason awards. In a couple weeks, right after the Miami game, you'll be back here. We'll be back doing it weekly. I can't wait.
Sounds good. Me neither. Go Irish.
All right, that's a wrap for our 6th annual preseason award show. Thanks again for making this your first watch or listen of the day. If you have not already, please subscribe to Locked On Irish on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Also remember, like the video below, leave a quick rating or review if you're enjoying the show. All right, here's a schedule for the rest of the week. So I'm going to be back tomorrow with a full preview of Notre Dame's entire 2025 schedule and my official record prediction for the Irish this season. Then on Wednesday, I'm going to have my game preview for the season opener against Miami. And on Thursday, I'm hoping to have another guest on to help us get more ready for the matchup with the Hurricanes. Then on Friday, we'll be back to doing the mailbag show weekly throughout the rest of the season. So get those questions in. If you want to be featured on the show, as always, you can drop yours in the YouTube comments or send them to me on X at Locked On Irish or on Instagram at Locked On Irish Pod. We have got a loaded week in store. I can't wait, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.